Well, I've learned a lot. I learned how to properly take this apart, and I wish I had checked on that before I had started disassembly on this one. And I also learned a lot about what some of these parts are specifically. So first let me give you a quick rundown of the proper names for some of these items. This rotating part is called the rotor. The stationary winding assembly is called the stator. That's S-T-A-T-O-R. This thing with the heat sink on it and what I thought was diodes inside is in fact diodes inside in a configuration that creates what's called a bridge rectifier. So this is what changes the AC that comes out of the windings here into DC. And this little packet right here is actually an integrated circuit. It's a little module. There's actually a circuit inside here with transistors and other tiny components, and together they create the regulator circuit. So your regulation actually happens right here. A couple interesting little facts about this. Regulator module, you can change this regulator module to another regulator module. If you're doing a conversion from one of these Delco alternators from like a 3-wire to a 1-wire, I talked about the problem where this alternator won't self-excite until you have really high RPMs. And on some of these older engines, like on tractors, you don't want to get anywhere near that high of an RPM. So basically what you can do is there's actually, you have to go online and research this because I don't have part numbers, but there are actually modules that you can buy to replace this module, this regulator, that will convert the alternator into an alternator that excites at a much lower RPM. So that's necessary if you want to actually use this in a 1-wire alternator configuration. So that being said, I don't think we're going to need to do that because I've wired the tractor already with the idiot light and everything. That's going to work as the exciting circuit, so I shouldn't have to worry about that. Now, as far as disassembly goes, remember I was having trouble here because I couldn't get to the connections. They were really hard to get at the way this came apart. Well, it turns out the only mistake I made was that when I split the alternator in half, took the back cover off, what you want is you want this armature, I'm sorry, not armature, yeah, you want this stator assembly to actually stay with the back cover. So this is actually supposed to slide out of here. It's stuck in there pretty good, but we're going to get that out today. And that would stay behind with the cover, so then we'd be looking at the stator right here, and you look down through the opening and you'd be able to easily remove those screws to take the cover completely off. So that was the one mistake I made, was when I split this, what I want is I want this stator assembly with this ring right here to come out of this part. So the rotor, the rotating part here, the rotor and everything would stay with the front cover as an assembly, and then I wouldn't have to bother taking this this pulley off at all. So this was a complete waste of time if I had done this right in the first place. But you live and learn. Boy, it's really tough getting this out. It's amazing to me how stuck this is in there. There's a lot of grime and grit on there, and I think once I get this out, if I clean it all up, it'll probably go back in a lot easier than it's coming out. Ah, there we go. So now this comes out as an assembly, and you can see that if this had stayed behind in the cover like this, I don't know exactly how this was oriented, but then these wires, which were actually bent down like that, be easy to get down in there and get those nuts off of that bridge rectifier. So, all right. So now what I want to do is I want to clean up some of these components. Just get a load of how much grease and gunk is just collected in this alternator case here. This pile of stuff is just stuff I just scraped off with a screwdriver to get the heavy stuff off first. Now I'll go in and I'll get some parts cleaner and I'll clean this this whole assembly. So my plan now is, because this is so dirty and gross, that I think I want to try and clean everything up really well, lubricate what needs to be lubricated, and put it all back together and retest it, because it could be something as silly as just grease saturating this these surfaces and the brushes that could have been causing my problem where my field circuit wasn't working. Well, I still want to get this pulley, and I want to get the rotor out of the front housing, because this front bearing sounds awful. I mean, just give you an idea. So I definitely want to get that apart and see if I can't do something about that. Alright, shop press is making short work of pushing this rotor assembly out of the housing. And the question is going to be whether or not it's going to be able to push, once the pulley bottom's out, will it be able to push the shaft out of that pulley. Shouldn't crush the fan, because the fan's going to be supported by the housing. Housing's got like a nose that sticks out on it. I think I just crushed the housing. Well, it was only aluminum, so I guess I shouldn't be surprised that it broke. I just can't get over how bad that pulley is stuck on there. Well, it's ruined now. I might as well just push it right through and see what the hell happened. Well, it finally finally popped through. Whoops. It finally popped through and released from the shaft, but not before I completely destroyed the front housing and the fan. So there's my stupid pulley that wouldn't come off. There's what's left of my fan. And I've completely broken the nose cone out of the front housing. So that's trash. And I just dropped the rotor on the floor, which isn't good. And now I can see that oh, that's interesting. So the bearing actually sits in a cup in the front housing, and then has this retaining plate that has 3 screws that hold the bearing in. But for some reason, the shaft of the rotor did not want to come out of the inner race of the bearing. So what was happening was, first the bearing was pushing out against this plate. Well, it wasn't just before, it is now. The bearing never released from the shaft. I already had that built in the bolt. A lot of that black front bearing is awful.